This week on the podcast, why you are your own worst. Dadgummit, I hit the wrong button.
Take two. Take two.
Take two. Hey, this week on the podcast, why you, yes you, are your own worst enemy. Why do you do that?
Yes, we are.
Why do I do that? I don't know why, but maybe we can figure out a little bit today.
On Just These Guys.
Just these guys.
We got Pastor Mike.
We got Dr. Parker in the house. Yeah. Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back.
Welcome. That's a TV show. Welcome back, Kotter.
Yep.
I am not going to sing it.
From a couple years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I just saw it the other day.
Can you name one other character on that show?
Character?
Yeah.
Character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can name any of the characters.
Yeah, me neither.
I can see him.
Yeah, I can see him.
I'm gonna claim memory loss here.
Who's the John Travolta? Vinnie Barbarino. I think that was the one.
And the only one I could, Horseshack.
Horseshack. Yep. There you go.
And Mr. Kotter. Mr.
Yep.
Kotter, Horseshack.
See, if we just took a little bit, we
Vinny.
could probably come up with most of them.
All right.
And nobody would care.
But come to Gilligan's Islands.
Sure.
Now, I think everybody in the universe knows the opening song to the theme
I have
song.
stood on the beach where the opening scene was shot, where the boat
Really?
goes ashore.
Yeah.
I've stood, I can't tell you what the beach name is, but I've stood there. It's on the island of Kauai.
Ah.
And yeah, I've been there. It's pretty.
Is there a sign
So my
that
life
says
is now
this is
complete.
the spot?
Actually, no, I don't think there is. You have to be with a local to know.
The local say, "Hey, brother,
Hey.
you got $100.
Yeah.
I take you to where Gilligan's
Come on.
Island. Come on,
Yeah.
This is the spot, bro. Nobody really knows this.
Yeah,
Just for you, one-time deal, $100.
now that you say that,
Me and my brother will take you.
it might not be. I didn't see the boat. Anywho.
The enemy.
Yeah, the enemy. This is definitely a fascinating topic because it is so true. And to some extent, we all deal with this.
We have met the enemy, and it is us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And this is what gets in the way of everything, because the mind is such a powerful, magical place that we can imagine anything, we can create anything. And we're putting people on the moon, sending them to Mars. Things I used to think were impossible are now possible. Remember Star Trek? There's, oh my God, he's got a flip phone that he could talk to somebody in space with, and now we have flip phones that we can talk to people in space with. I mean,
Yep.
it's, the world's changing so quickly because of our powerful brains, our ability to think and speculate and create.
Mm-hmm.
But our biggest problem is we point that at ourselves in a negative way. And negative self-talk, negative self-labeling,
Yeah.
doubt, worry.
So I was reading something the other day about, it was a psychology article of some sort, and they were talking about negativity bias. Explain that to me a little bit, because what I was reading, I want to make sure that I was kind of interpreting it
Well, I'm going
correctly.
off of what you read.
Well, you're the psychologist.
Well, but people come up with these little cute labels all the time, and they throw them around.
Got it,
And
yeah.
they act like it's, like it's the 4 fundamentals or something.
Right.
Like everybody should know this.
How ridiculous is that?
But what you were saying with the negativity bias was
that we so easily, it doesn't even take effort to think negatively. It takes effort to think positively, so we have a natural bias towards negativity.
And some smart people worked on that for a long time
Figure out the obvious.
the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
As a man thinketh,
Sure.
so is he.
Yeah.
The Bible talked a lot about stinking thinking, negative thinking,
Sure.
critical thinking.
Yep.
And so we're just repackaging this stuff over and over and over again. Now somebody's calling it negativity bias. Well, the reason why it's a negativity bias is because your mind is in a negative framework. And so you are, is the glass half empty or half full?
Right.
And so we have a negative basic mindset going into the world. We're looking out for bad things. We don't want to make mistakes. We don't want to.
All the knots.
And we worry about bad things happening. So we are in a negative mind state.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see what we're looking for.
Yep.
And it's hard to see something positive when you're worried about bad things happening. Mm-hmm. And either you will miss the positives, and that's where people will say, I guess I should just count my blessings.
Yeah.
Or, they'll go to a rock concert with, newsboys, and then they'll see the video of the starving people in another country and be asked to donate, and they can't fathom that people live like that every single day in third world countries. When we call them third world countries, that's the norm.
Yeah.
For the whole
world.
We're
not the norm.
We're not the norm. We're the top 10%.
Mm-hmm.
We're the shining city on the hill. We have achieved so much that we're still looking up the ladder, not recognizing all the many millions of blessings we have. 80% of the world, 90% of the world's standard of living is well below us. And there's a majority of the world don't have running water. Majority of people don't have more than 3 walls.
Yeah. And listen, I love America. I do. America. But the reality is that, and I'll just speak for everybody. We're a bunch of spoiled brats.
Oh, yeah.
We are a bunch of spoiled brats.
Think about what you audience, think about what you complain about all day long.
Yep.
Your hangnail, the traffic light's too slow, your food didn't come out the window fast enough. You had to let out some air conditioning to roll the window down to reach out to grab the piping hot food, complaining the food's too hot sitting in your lap, and the French fries are too cold by the time you get home. These are your problems.
Whew. First world problems.
Not to minimize people who do actually have problems, but
right.
The majority of people walking around, the majority of us, we focus on the negative because we have a negative mindset. And that's where the 4 fundamentals really started to come in, was how do we change a person's basic mindset that they're hitting the gate with. And it just so happens, Paul said, transform. Do not be conformed to the ways of this world. The world thinks very negatively.
Yep.
Do not think like this world. Yep. The world thinks negatively. So you are to transform. You're to change how you think. Transform by the renewing of your mind. So if you're thinking negatively in the world, then obviously we have to learn how to think positively.
Yeah. And I'm a great example. I'm great. I am a good example of someone who, I'm trying to put this the right way. I was convinced that I was a positive thinker. And then I talked. And all these knots, and they're still there.
Sure.
Now I recognize them. My perspective is shifting.
Yeah.
I think my favorite example that you've come up with or analogy is the analogy of the bird in the cage, where there's this opening right to its left, but it's looking through the bars over here on the right. And you say your perspective is either your prison, which is where the way the bird's looking, or it's your power, which is right there.
Right.
It's right there for the taking.
The bird has positioned itself between 2 bars where it can't go forward, but if you look left and right, there are no other bars.
Yep.
And if it just stepped back and looked at the situation differently,
Yep.
it would see options to escape.
So this whole thing starts with us stepping out of denial. Maybe I am a negative thinker. I'll start to pay attention to how I'm talking, because how I talk is revealing how I think. And then if I step out of denial, I can realize, okay, well, I am actually my own worst enemy. Let me change me, because that's who I control. Let me change me. And then that gives us a whole new, powerful perspective to be able to launch off with. And that is the whole reason we do this.
Right.
The whole entire reason we do this is that to help somebody, week in and week out, help somebody to take something that's negative and turn it into a positive, because it's all there for the taking. Regardless really of your situation, regardless of what you're dealing with. And we deal with a lot of crap. We do. We're spoiled, but we still have a lot of crap to deal with. We have the power to experience the change, and it starts with thinking and hydro water.
I'm still drinking it.
Yep, I am too. I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm feeling it. I'm starting to feel it.
I've become their number one spokesperson.
Mm-hmm.
I can name 6 people who in the last week have gone and bought one. So hopefully people have a positive, and maybe not as positive as I have had, because I was thinking this last week, my back issue is different than other people's.
Right.
I was born with spinal stenosis and did not know it. I went through boot camp just crying.
Wow.
And when they finally identified it, the surgery was, a laminectomy. And what they actually did, on your back, you have the dinosaur ridges.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, the little bumps on your spine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are
you deformed?
I've never felt my back.
You have the little bumps on your back where your spine is.
Yep.
Well, they cut all those out of mine.
What?
Yeah. So
They deemed them unnecessary.
Well, the spinal stenosis, the spinal column is being squeezed.
Okay.
Just due to the cavity being too small. And so what they did was on each vertebrae, they cut a square out of it. So the little dinosaur ridge goes away, and they leave the structure, the outer part of the spine. So on my X-ray, that's what I see. And so, you can reach into my back and touch a certain spot. No, kick! You have direct access to my spinal cord.
Wow.
You touch this one, I kick that away. Touch that one, I kick that away. But so any inflammation is pressing in on my spinal cord directly across 4 or 5 vertebrae where they removed the back of my spine. So I'm highly sensitive to inflammation, I would think. Maybe not as sensitive as other people who have damaged discs or other kind of issues going on with their spine. So that just crossed my mind this week, is my response is maybe so dramatic because I'm so sensitive to the stuff.
Sure.
What was I talking about? My squirrel brain, I went somewhere else.
Well,
The inflammation.
Inflammation
Yeah.
in your stenosis.
So-
Well, I do know this much. I'm
We
drinking
digress.
more water.
That can always help.
It always has to help. So back to this.
Back from the commercial break.
Yeah, back to this idea of us being our own worst enemy. How do we begin to walk away from, literally go from one extreme being our own worst enemy to the other extreme being we're a narcissist? And we don't want to go there, but we want to begin to change our perspective on who we are.
Well, I don't think we're done complaining enough. Every podcast I hear, they spend a good half hour, 45 minutes talking about how bad things are for you before they even throw out one suggestion. So let's complain a little bit more. But
Let's be a little different.
Well, the Bible says love others
as you love yourself.
And if you don't love yourself,
you can't give what you don't have.
So essentially, everybody's following that direction.
Mm-hmm.
love others as you love yourself. Well, I am. I'm hating on you.
Yep.
Because I'm hating on me.
Yep. It's the same thing with forgive others. Forgive others as God has forgiven us. There's a connection.
Sure.
There's always a connection. And so, yeah.
And, love others as I have loved you.
Yep.
He loves us, so we can love other people. But if we can't receive his love, we can't love ourselves. And just another commercial segue sideways here before we get to the actual solutions here that everybody tuned in for. I'll put the time code up. You can fast forward through all this if you want. What was I going to say? We talk about God in here once in a while.
Yep, we do.
It doesn't have to be weird, people.
Right.
And that's why I'll talk to people and I'll ask them, "Are you spiritual?" And this wall goes up immediately. Well, I haven't been to church, but I do believe. But the pastor said this and that, and I didn't really cotton with that. And that's not what any of this is about.
Nope.
My perspective. Mike can speak for himself. He's a grown man, but some wise man once said it is about relationship, not religion.
I would agree with that wise man.
And what you have to understand is religion is a system.
Yep.
It is a method of worship.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, when I was reading James Smith.
Yeah, James Bryan Smith. Yep.
Yeah, from Friends University.
Yep.
His book series.
Yep.
Methodist, the name comes because they're like, hey, this is a method to worship.
Yep.
It is not the law, but it is a method. It is a way to help you learn, grow, worship. That's all Methodism was in the beginning. But what we as humans tend to do is take a cool way to do something and then convert it into a law and put it on other people and then judge other people because they're not doing what we think they should be doing. And that's where you get into religion, is there's a specific hierarchy of beliefs, a doctrine, specific things you have to do and can't do.
You worship the method.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. It gets in between you and your relationship with God, and you worship the method. And that was never.
And before how many years was it before an actual formal kind of church was created, adopted?
Well, it was 300 years. It was the emperor, actually, of Rome, Constantine, who looked at these Christians and he thought, I think I could take that to a whole nother level.
Well, stop right there. For 300 years, we didn't have the big name churches, religions. Nope. So for 300 years, how the heck did they get into heaven?
Right, exactly.
And now you're going to tell me that if I don't do it this way, I'm going to hell.
Right.
For 300 years, they got along fine without your religion.
300 years. Think about that. How old is the United States of America?
Yeah.
Not even that.
Right.
300 years.
They were having a relationship with God.
Yep.
Without a building, without a structure, without 18 rules you got to follow, without a Sunday, crock pot, bring your own beer. Yep. Bring your own food.
Yep.
They got to, no garage sales, car washes.
Yep. They were living off of the teachings of Jesus when he was here. They were living out a movement. Mm-hmm. It was literally a movement. When it started to come to a screeching halt was when the Emperor Constantine decided, okay, we're going to build cathedrals. We're going to put altars over the graves of the martyrs. We're going to do all this and that. We're going to bring in the pomp and circumstance. They brought in actually a lot of paganism.
Sure.
Is the reality. Mm-hmm. And we still have a lot of that. We just have to be honest about it. Every single church has certain elements, and they might be their own elements because of certain methods, but we all look to outsiders like a bit of a cult.
Well, yeah.
That's just the reality. But it's just all a bunch of broken people who are in there trying to do better and have that relationship.
So if you ever hear me talking about spirituality, spiritual stuff, Jesus, anything you might in your world call religion, I'm operating off of one rule. There is one thing, there's one task that is the work of God.
Mm-hmm.
Believe in the one he sent.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
You do that, you're golden.
Yep.
And you're golden with me.
You get very far away from that, you're walking into trouble.
Everything else is stuff the world has laid on.
Yep.
He said, you want to know the work of God? Believe in the one he sent.
Yep.
This one commandment I give you.
Yep.
So you want to know what the law is? Love others.
Yep.
As I loved you.
Yep.
Boom. And beyond that, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, he said to love me as you love yourself. He said to love others as you love yourself. But the reality is, I think we need to take it another step backwards. And I've said this the last couple of Sundays, where the number one thing for us is not to love God.
Right.
It's not the number one thing.
Pay attention, folks.
The number one thing is to let God love you, to let God love us. And then with that love, because Scripture says that we love him because he first loved us.
Yes.
And so if he first loved us, the first thing we do is receive it. And then when we receive it, isn't that
And if you're getting uncomfortable out there right now, it's because you are your own worst enemy.
Boom.
You're fighting against yourself.
Boom. Boom.
Receiving.
Yes.
This is, today's show. We've identified the enemy, and it is us.
Yep.
And it starts with, do you receive the love that is there for you? You cannot give what you don't have.
Yep.
And if you think like this world, then you will think that I got to do something to earn whatever I get.
Right.
And so he says, I love you. You're like, but I didn't do nothing. I still love you. Yeah, but can I hold a car wash for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or I did this, or I did that, and there's no possible way you could love me because of who I was or who I still. It doesn't have anything to do with that.
God, you're crazy. You don't love me. You can't love me because I did this. I'm a felon.
He can't help but love you. Can't help but love you. God is love.
Period.
Another
Boom.
Scripture. God is love. And so receive it. Receive it, and then walk in the freedom that starts to enter your life when you are less and less and less your own worst enemy.
I met a guy yesterday who had a failed experiment with a therapist because he has a great deal of anxiety, and the therapist said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to the theater and you're going to sit in there. You're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to stand in there until you can't stand. I mean, he just sent him out. Now it's exposure therapy, and there's a sense behind it, but he just sent the guy out completely unprepared. Now, there is some people might benefit from a sink or swim.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So if you're having trouble liking yourself, loving yourself, then maybe you try the fake it till you make it part, and do, whenever you hear yourself giving yourself a negative message, you replace it with a positive message. And it doesn't have to be silly. I'm a wonderful person.
Right.
Yep.
But
But if you're saying you can't do something, you're defeating yourself, you're putting yourself down, you're creating failure in your own mind and your own heart, and that's how you're going to feel, and that's how you're going to behave, that's how you're going to believe about yourself. If I can't do something and I fail at it, and if I fail at it enough times, well, then what am I? A failure. No, you're not. And then I can point to the evidence of all my failures to prove that I'm a failure. So I get locked into that loop.
Yeah.
And that's the negative thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it. I can do it if I have enough practice.
Sure.
I can do it if I go get some coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it with enough time. So the positive statement has to be realistic. Or that's where you said, how do we avoid narcissism? Narcissists have an unrealistic positive image of themselves. And in reality, narcissism, the truth is, narcissists themselves don't have a positive self-image. They have such a deep narcissistic wound. They have such a deep injury inside their psyche. They truly, in their heart of hearts, despise themselves, don't like themselves. They feel extremely insecure. So to counter that, they generate this overblown image. And so they put on airs. They drop names. Yes, I was with Senator Marshall yesterday, and he and I were talking to, Tom Clancy, and we're trying to make ourselves look better than we are. We brag about our cars. We brag about our boats.
Yep.
We're pumping our own image up to other people because we feel like an imposter secretly inside. We don't love ourselves, so we put on this show for other people, and those people can never be wrong because it will destroy them. Mm-hmm. It will tap into that deep-seated insecurity, and they will fight tooth and nail to never be wrong, to always be right. To insane levels. I mean, they literally can never say, I was wrong, or that would kind of validate and verify that negative self-belief they have about themselves. Mm. And there's multiple kind of types of narcissism. The classic one we're always thinking of with the braggadocio. But that's really what's going on, is somebody who looks like they have an overly positive self-image. In reality, they have an extremely negative self-image.
Wow. Well, this is definitely, it just reminds me, I'm sitting here. One of the things that people don't, if you've never podcasted before and you're not going off of a script or anything like that, you have to think fast. Otherwise you sound slow. And I know there are a lot of times that I sound really slow, but it's because I'm still thinking.
Sure.
I'm thinking, is that necessary to say? Does it make any sense? And 3/4 of the stuff that I'm thinking about doesn't yet make sense, but it's time to talk. Right. That's the pressure. Yeah. It's like an awkward silence on a first date. It's like,
so
well, that makes a lot of sense though. I had a guy that I used to, he was an acquaintance really. And, he just struggled with narcissism. Yeah, it's really hard to talk to somebody about that, to that person. It's impossible.
Well, yeah.
And so you just listen. You listen and you decide how much of that, where's the boundary going to be?
Right.
But as an example, he had a tennis racket in his hand, and I said, "Man, dude, that's a really nice tennis racket." And he proceeded to tell me the entire history of tennis. But that makes sense because he was essentially wanting me to know all that he knew.
Right.
And how great it was that he knew all this. And he wasn't processing it that way, but that's what it was.
No, yeah.
And I can't get that 20 minutes back. It's like we hope nobody. No, see, that's a negative thought.
And we're not really even talking about narcissism. That's not a risk for anybody that is listening in the audience. I mean,
Sure.
a narcissist wouldn't, spend any time listening to a self-help program because
no.
they've got it all together. If somebody said, "Hey, you ought to listen to this podcast," they would start thinking, "I could do my own podcast."
Yeah, that's true.
And so most of us, 90%, I had a conversation with a narcissist once who said to me, as we're kind of working, and the veneer would come off every once in a while. He was trying to, I think, work me to get a release, and the veneer would slip. And one time he barked at me through gritted teeth. He said, "Are you telling me that everybody is not walking around looking at each other thinking, how can I get something from them before they take it from me? Because that's how I think all day long." And I sat back and I was like, whoa, you just showed me. And I told him, actually, 90% of people are walking around out there in worry and doubt.
Yeah.
Fear, anxiety. 90% of the people out there have a negative self-image. They have a negative view of their future. They have in their head the belief that other people either do see them negatively, or if they knew the truth, would see them negatively. And that is where most of us sit and float. And that is, both ends of the spectrum are completely unrealistic.
Well, they're both own worst enemies. They're both examples of it, of being my own worst enemy. So it's all right here. It's all right between the ears.
Yes, realistic, positive self-affirmations, realistic evaluations of the situation. I can never do it. That's not true. And when you tell yourself that negative self-talk is what destroys you. So giving yourself positive, realistic affirmations, doing a vita, doing a resume of your life, listing all the positive accomplishments. I'm a loser. Well, did you graduate high school? Did you get through high school without being arrested?
Yeah.
Did you get a job? Have you held a job? I mean,
what are the wins that you've not even considered?
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many positive elements to our lives. In fact, a good exercise that is very powerful, and this is a fake it till you make it kind of thing, but it forces you to entertain alternative thoughts. And a good exercise that you have to do for 30 days. You can't stop one day. You have to do it every day for 30 days. So don't do this if you're not going to do it for 30 days because it won't work. But every single day,
Hit us.
you write down 3 positive things about yourself, about your life, about your day. 3. That's it. But however long that takes you, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you take those 5 or 10 minutes out of your day full of negative thinking, and you stop and you write down 3 positive things.
That's good. And they can be little things.
Yeah.
Because a lot of little things will add up to big things. But they can be little. Celebrating, it's kind of the idea of don't sweat the small stuff, but celebrate the small stuff. Celebrate the little wins. That's how we get away from the negative bias.
Nobody's going to see what you've written. This is not for public discourse.
Right.
So if you want to write, my hair looks good today.
Yep.
That's a win.
Yep.
Got up, you blow dried your hair, did everything. You look in the mirror, you're like, that's it. That's a win. That's a positive.
Yep. I said that to myself this morning. That's why I didn't wear a hat. I said, dang, it's a good hair day right here. That's a win. Good stuff, Doc. Good stuff.
Thank you guys for tuning in to Just These Guys,
Take it, apply it, live it.
Positive self-affirmations 3 times a day.
Yes. 3, that's nothing.
Hey, God loves you.
But it could be huge. Yep.
He said you're holy, you're perfect.
God loves you.
Is he wrong?
Never.
Is God a liar?
Never.
We'll catch you guys next week.
Have an awesome week.